Yes, sir. What's your name? Where you from?
Shedeur Sanders, Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. Cleveland, Ohio is in the house. Stop playing with them. Okay. What's your favorite meal?
Favorite meal? I like work.
Somebody asked Shedeur Sanders one simple question on the eve of training camp. What's your favorite meal? And instead of naming a food, he looked at the camera and said, I like work. 4 words. That's it. No script, no PR team standing behind him feeding him lines, and that clip is doing more for how Cleveland sees this kid than any highlight reel ever could. Today we're breaking down why that one answer is quietly changing the entire conversation around Shedeur Sanders, and why the people who spend all offseason calling him a distraction are running out of things to say. Let's set the scene first. This is the Monday before training camp officially opens. Everybody in Cleveland is holding their breath because we all know what starts the next morning. The quarterback competition gets real. Deshaun Watson, Shedeur, Dylan Gabriel, all of it. But before any of that drama kicks off, the Browns dropped a little behind-the-scenes video, one of those walk-and-talk style clips where they ask a player quick-fire questions while he's heading into the building. And Shedeur got asked the most basic question you could think of: what's your favorite meal? Most guys would say something like, my mom's cooking, or steak and eggs, or whatever. Shedeur didn't even blink. He said, I like work. Then he doubled down on it later in a longer answer. I eat, sleep, and breathe work. That's all I do. Now, here's why that matters more than it sounds like it should. For months, the story around Shedeur in Cleveland has been written by people who never actually talked to him. He's been painted as a distraction, a problem for the locker room, something the Browns have to manage instead of embrace. That's the narrative that's been pushed by parts of the local media all offseason. And then he does this. 30 seconds of him being genuinely himself, no filter, no marketing angle, and it lands completely different than anything a press conference soundbite could ever do. Fans in Cleveland picked up on it instantly because it's not just a cute answer, it's consistent with everything he's actually shown since the day he got there. He said he's from Cleveland now, not from Texas, not from wherever he grew up watching his dad play. Cleveland. That's the answer he gave when they asked where he's from. You put those 2 answers together and you start to see the actual pattern here. This isn't a guy performing for cameras. This is a guy who has fully bought into the city that a lot of people expected him to just pass through on his way to somewhere bigger. And that's exactly the kind of moment that doesn't trend for the reasons the Browns media usually goes viral for.
I'm biased. I think 2 is the man for the mission. And I'm not sure what video I put at the front here, but also saw more recently Shedeur, and a nice little find there. He finds Harold Fannin over the middle of the field. That was a good little ball. There was a video. Shedeur did go viral on social media, but for a lot of positive reasons, right? I feel like he always goes viral for negative reasons, or at least the media tries to make him go viral for negative reasons. This week, he did a little I forgot who it is, but you walk you through the outfit. I like those. Those videos are cool. And he was like, where you from? I'm from Cleveland, baby. He said, what you like to eat? I like to eat work. You know what I'm saying? That's all I do. I eat, sleep, and breathe work. You know what I'm saying? So I think he made a lot more fans there. And I think a lot of Cleveland people understand that, look, man, it's something that we've been saying a lot.
Now ask yourself this. When was the last time you saw a Browns quarterback go viral for something like that, and it wasn't about a stat line or a controversy? Here's where it gets interesting, because this clip didn't just make Shedeur fans happy, it's actually starting to move people who were never on his side to begin with. Take Dan Orlovsky. This is a guy who has been openly critical of Shedeur for a long stretch now. He's the one who went on TV and compared Shedeur not getting first-team reps to his own experience as a backup, basically downplaying how big of a deal that actually was. He's been one of the louder voices pushing back on the idea that Shedeur deserves to be the guy in Cleveland. But look at where the conversation is now. The talking heads who spent all last year saying Shedeur wasn't even going to make the 53-man roster are now debating whether he should be the starter over a guy who signed a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. That's not a small shift. That's a complete flip in the entire premise of the argument. And it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening at the exact same time this Cleveland moment is going viral for all the right reasons. You can't separate the two. When a player is only known for controversy, critics have an easy job. They just point at the noise. But when that same player starts showing up in these small, human, unscripted moments, and the fan base in his own city is reacting with actual warmth, it gets a lot harder to keep painting him as some kind of problem. Think about the actual quote going around. Anybody but Shedeur Sanders is dumb. That's not coming from a Shedeur Stan account. That's language now showing up in the broader conversation from people who watched a full season of him outperforming the roster around him. Bad receiving core, bad offensive line for stretches, and somehow the most wins on the team. So when you stack the wins total on top of a viral moment like I eat, sleep, and breathe work, you start to understand why even his harshest critics are quietly walking things back. It's not one thing, it's the accumulation of receipts, the results on the field, and now the personality off it, both pointing in the same direction at the same time.
Right now, if I said Shedeur is gonna start for the Browns, and I did, right, and y'all, people clown me for it. Some people called me a hot take merchant. Some people call me this, a glazer, and all this other stuff. But if I told you, if I tell you, I think Shedeur Sanders was gonna start Week 1, that's not a hot take in 2026, right? It was a hot take when he was a 5th round pick. When people and because I want y'all to remember. Because they gonna move the goalposts again. Remember what they said about Shedeur. They didn't say Shedeur is going to be a backup. That's not what they said. They said Shedeur wasn't going to make the roster. Remember that. I want y'all to remember how far we've come in this conversation. Some people like to say, "Oh, well, Shedeur is not an underdog. He's not this." I get that, but he is quite doubted. I don't know if the underdog, there's like a threshold of doubt that needs to creep into your mind, but there has been a lot of doubt of Shedeur Sanders. And as it stands in July 27, 2026, I don't know what's going to look like in August 26. I don't know what it's like in November 26. I don't know. I have no idea. They said the man wouldn't make the team. Then they said he would never be on the active roster. Then they said, well, he's never going to get any playing time. And then they said, but he's not going to win any games. And then they said, well, he can only throw for 300 yards in a passing touchdown once. It's just the Titans. It's just the Raiders. Whoa. No. We're talking about a guy y'all said wasn't going to make the team. Yeah, we're talking about a person y'all looked us in the eye and said, oh, no, he's so bad at quarterback. Right? He's so bad at quarterback and good at quarterback that he needs to be able to make up for a terrible offense. Remember, all the quarterbacks were bad. All the offense was bad. All the throwing offense was bad. And somehow Shedeur won the most games out of it. Oh, but I get it. The defense did it. Yeah. The defense did. Shedeur did it without Harold Fannin, but the defense did it. Shedeur did it without Quinshon Judkins, but the defense did it, right?
Let's be real for a second. A year ago, saying Shedeur starts Week 1 got you called a hot take merchant. Now it's not even a debate anymore. So why is this specific clip, 4 seconds of him saying, I like work, hitting different than everything else that's come out of Berea this offseason? A big part of it is timing. This dropped the night before training camp. Every eye in Cleveland is locked in on this team right now, and instead of another quarterback controversy headline, fans got something that actually felt good to watch. There's also the Cleveland.com piece that's been making the rounds, the one breaking down what they're calling the Shedeur Sanders phenomenon. And one of the points they make is about what they call a parasocial inheritance. Basically, fans who grew up watching Deion Sanders build his whole legacy on personality and swagger are now transferring that same emotional investment onto his son. It's not just about football with this kid. It never really was with his dad either. It's about a brand, a story, and a city deciding whether they want to be part of writing the next chapter. And that's exactly what this work quote taps into. It's not a stat, it's not a throw, it's a value statement. He's telling you, without trying to tell you anything, what actually matters to him. And Cleveland, a city that has been starving for a player who treats this franchise like it's not a stepping stone, heard that loud and clear. Compare that to how the Deshaun Watson era has gone. 19 games played in 6 years, a shoulder surgery, an Achilles tear that wiped out an entire season. Through no fault of anyone's effort, that's just been the reality. So when a young player shows up and says, "This is the city I'm from now, and work is what I eat, sleep, and breathe," that hits a fan base that's been through years of a franchise not mattering in the league exactly where it needed to. It also reframes every other Shedeur story that's popped up this offseason. Remember the Jerry Jeudy situation where a doctored photo got tweeted out trying to create drama between the two of them? That story got attention for all the wrong reasons. This one is getting attention because it's real, it's simple, and it's consistent with everything Shedeur has actually done since he walked into that building. That contrast right there might be the biggest reason this clip is spreading the way it is.
I'm not going to focus on that negativity. In fact, what I want to do is actually go for some positivity. Now, Cleveland.com, I was scrolling and I saw Mary Kay Cabot retweet this article. And I was like, huh? Tim Bielek, and he says, from Irie Harris, it says, inside the Shedeur Sanders phenomenon, 8 reasons his fans are so passionate, so outspoken, so determined to see him become an NFL star. And I thought this was a very interesting little insert. We're going to read a little bit of it, right? I have a little synopsis, a summary of it. But it seems like Cleveland.com, the same organization that obviously Mary Kay works for, and they have a lot of people who aren't fond of Shedeur, looks like they're going to do a little mini-series article about why Shedeur fans are what it is. So I think it's right that we, read some of it, see where they're wrong and right. Maybe we can help Cleveland.com educate themselves on why people enjoy the greatness of
It get dangerous.
Shedeur Sanders. So let's read a little bit. So first things first, I guess this is like an 8-part series. In the first part, he says, a transcendent legacy. Deion Sanders was legendary, polarizing multi-sport athlete who started both NFL and MLB. You knew that already. Famously becoming the only athlete to play in both leagues on the very same day. He built an incomparable brand characterized by swagger, charisma, and commercial success. Parasocial inheritance, quote unquote. Because of his father's massive cultural footprint, Shedeur benefits from what researchers called a parasocial inheritance. Wow. Fans who grew up loving or feeling emotionally invested in Deion Sanders naturally transfer those nostalgic feelings and emotional investment onto Shedeur, viewing his career as the next chapter of the family narrative. I think that's right. I think that's right. Handling adversity. Just like his polarizing father, Shedeur faces intense criticism. However, he views dealing with criticism as completely normal, noting that because people hate on his dad, facing adversity is almost normal for his family. And then it says other contributing factors mentioned. While the article does not yet detail reason 2 and 8, it briefly touches on several overlapping paradoxical qualities that fuel his popularity and allow fans to project their own values onto his story. He is viewed as privileged and disadvantaged at the same time. He is considered both an underdog and a nepo baby of a Hall of Famer. He acts as a folk hero, trendsetter, and social media phenomenon. He is an authentic presence in the community and a beacon of hope for Browns fans. And at the end of the day, that last line is the only thing that really should really matter. So I appreciate them trying to, go about this without just making silly names and crying on Twitter.
This might end up being the most important 30 seconds of media Shedeur puts out all training camp, and it's not even football content. Here's the bigger picture, and it's the part a lot of people are going to miss because they're too busy arguing about who wins the quarterback battle. The battle for the starting job is going to get decided on the field over the next few weeks through padded practices and preseason snaps. Nobody controls that with a viral clip. But there's a second battle happening at the same time, and this one is about who Cleveland actually wants to root for. And that battle, Shedeur might already be winning by a mile, because it's one thing to put up good numbers as a backup thrown into the fire. It's another thing entirely to become the guy your city feels like actually belongs to them. That second thing is harder to manufacture, and it's worth a lot more long term. Look at what's actually happened here in less than a year. He goes from a 5th-round pick that some people said wouldn't make the roster to putting up the most wins on the team despite a rough supporting cast for stretches of the season, to now being the subject of a feature story analyzing why an entire fan base has attached itself to him emotionally. That's not the arc of a distraction. That's the arc of a guy the front office and the city are going to have a very hard time moving on from, no matter what the quarterback room looks like on paper. And that 4-second clip, "I like work," ties the whole thing together in a way a stat sheet never could. Fans don't fall in love with completion percentages. They fall in love with guys who feel like theirs. Guys who say Cleveland is home before anybody asks them to. Guys who answer a joke question about food with something that sounds less like a joke and more like a mission statement. So heading into training camp, the quarterback competition is still the headline. Nobody's arguing that. But underneath it, there's this other story building. One about a city deciding it's already made up its mind about who it wants under center long term. And whether the coaches agree with that timeline or not, that emotional shift is real, and it's not going away just because camp officially opens tomorrow. So let's tie this back together. It started with a throwaway question on a Monday night walk and talk video. What's your favorite meal? And instead of a normal answer, Shedeur gave Cleveland 4 words that ended up saying more about him than a full press conference could. "I like work." That clip landed in the middle of a city that's been fed one villain narrative after another about this kid, and instead of buying into it, fans watched something completely unscripted and decided this is somebody who actually gets it, somebody who picked Cleveland right back. At the same time, critics who spent all last year writing him off are starting to quietly change their tone. The most wins argument keeps getting harder to ignore. The Cleveland.com feature keeps spreading. And now this, a 4-second answer that's somehow doing more PR for Shedeur Sanders than his entire media team combined. None of that decides the quarterback battle. That still gets settled on the practice field through August, through 3 preseason games, the way it's supposed to be. But it does tell you something about where the emotional momentum in this city is heading, right as training camp opens. And once a fan base falls in love with a player for who he is, not just what he does on Sundays, that connection tends to stick around a lot longer than any quarterback controversy does. So here's the real question heading into camp. Does Shedeur Sanders win this job because of what he does on the field over the next few weeks, or has Cleveland already decided who they want under center no matter what happens in August? Drop your answer in the comments. Field takes it, wins it, or the city already picked its guy? Either way, training camp starts tomorrow, and if this clip is any indication, the story around Shedeur Sanders is only getting bigger from here. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single practice clip, a single quote, a single moment, because this quarterback battle is about to get very real, very fast. Smash like and subscribe.